Okay, we are live on Facebook Live. I think. I don't know. Hey, Kim. Hey, Michael.
Hey.
What's happening, everybody?
How's everybody doing?
Everybody's good. I'm doing good.
We are live.
We are live. Yep, you can see it. Good, good, good. There we are. I'm going to share this to my page. All right. I'm doing good. Store. There we go.
We are live.
We are live. All right. So listen, if you're just joining us, we've got a lot of new friends to the Personnel Board Facebook page, and thank you for joining us. We're just trying to get some live learning out there, live from Birmingham, Alabama. And today's topic is what, Mr. Michael?
Today's topic is ethics.
Ethics. Like in the office, let's get ethical. I want to get. Kim, take it.
Olivia Newton-John.
Ethical. Let's get into ethical.
So glad y'all could join us again. I think we might have some new people joining us this week. This is how we do it. This is about 30, maybe 35 minutes. Come and go as you please, but just have a little roundtable talk with the Personnel Board Training Department. If you're watching us live on Facebook right now, go ahead and throw where you're watching us from in the comments. We're going to try to watch the comments, maybe answer your questions, maybe look at some of your issues. If you agree or disagree with a few things we're talking about, that's fine. But let's go ahead and get started in case we've got some new people. Kim and Michael, give us a 15-second overview of you and your background.
Go ahead, Kim.
Hey, I'm Kimberly Robinson, a trainer at the Personnel Board of Jefferson County, and my background has just been in human resources.
Yep. Awesome. Michael?
All right. I am Michael Glaze. I'm also a trainer here at the Spark Learning Center at the Personnel Board. I've got quite a bit of training in human resources. I've also a veteran in the military, got a little bit of that going for me. So really glad to be here and glad to be part of this.
Absolutely. And again, today's topic is ethics, and tell me why this is so relevant literally today. What just happened like a couple minutes ago, Michael?
Well, just a couple of minutes ago, we finished Making Ethical Decisions class that we do for the merit system. So we spent 2 hours talking about making ethical decisions. It was a great class, a lot of interaction.
Great class. Yeah.
Now we're going to follow up on Facebook Live and share with everybody here.
Yeah. So one of our 2-hour training classes is how to make ethical decisions. So again, it's something it just helps. It helps you to think because, Michael and I talk about John Maxwell at times and how John Maxwell says, why do we call it business ethics or personal ethics? There is no, it's just ethics. Either you have ethics or you don't. So it's going to be a fun little talk today. Connie, thank you for joining us in Trustville, and Aaron hanging out. Taria, Persephone always joins us. We love her. Love her that she's here with us. So let's go over a quick overview, y'all, of just how we want to talk about ethics. All right. So this is what always comes up. If you steal pens from work, that's unethical. If you take an extra 5 minutes at lunch, that's unethical. If we tell you that you shouldn't park in these spots, these are for our guests, and you're supposed to park out here and back and forth, is that kind of a little too simplistic? I mean, yes, maybe that's part of ethical behavior, but it's more than that, isn't it? It's not just stealing stuff, right?
Absolutely. It is so much more. I think the people that really focus on that part probably have some big stuff in their luggage. I mean, they've got some unethical things going on, and they're justifying when they say, "But I bet you've got some pins from the workplace or pins from the Spark Learning Center." Well, we give those away, so that's not,
right.
But they're usually carrying something with them that's bigger, and they're trying to justify or feel better about themselves.
Yep. Kim, you agree?
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And the pen issue, it's like, we want you to take our pens. It's more advertisement for us. Take them all. We got boxes of them.
Yeah.
And so that to me is a small issue.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we don't want to be too black and white because there's a lot of gray in here. Some people will disagree with that. But we're going to talk a little bit about societal norms and kind of things like that. We're not advocating stealing. Let me just be clear. Well, I mean, all of this stuff is important, but just to kind of come out and say, well, there was, a whole bunch of mints on the table, and instead of taking 3, I just took 1, and the guy who took 3 is unethical. Let's go bigger. Let's go bigger than that today, because those of you who love The Office know this quote. There was an episode about ethics in The Office, and Oscar once said that we're not talking about ethics here. Ethics is a real discussion of the competing conceptions of the good. This is just the corporate anti-shoplifting rules, because they were in an all-day seminar about what you can and can't do. So we find that interesting. So a couple things that are going on here in Alabama, just to let you all know. And Michael, I heard you talk in your class today about morals versus ethics, and so we will eventually come to that topic. But we got a couple of judges who again are in the headlines today. One out of Talladega County. He's got 100 allegations against him of unethical behavior. Then you've got a Jefferson County judge in Birmingham. And again, innocent till proven guilty on both of these, absolutely. But this one here says she's got multiple violations of the canons of judicial ethics. So it doesn't, it's not just employees and small businesses. I mean, this kind of thing can affect elected officials, people like that. That's kind of all out there. So Michael, let's start with you, because you kind of covered this today in class. How do we define what is illegal versus what is immoral versus what is unethical? Like, do they cross over? Are they mutually exclusive? What are your thoughts on this?
Pete, this is really, really tough, because when you find somebody doing unethical behavior, or when there's unethical behavior, it crosses over so many times in our belief system. We want to say that's illegal and that's immoral and unethical. The difference is this: if I've broken a law, and there are companies that have hired law firms to find out how can I bend this, or how can I go there without breaking a law. Yeah. So I'm not illegal by doing this, even though it may be wrong where I am. It's not wrong where I'm doing it. So I'm going to keep myself from being illegal. Immoral is a belief system. So morals, you said we were going to talk about this later. I don't know if this is the time.
No, this is it. This is later.
Okay. Immoral is our belief system, how we believe on things. But then the ethics come into play is our actions. So morals are our belief system. Ethics are the actions that follow that up. And a great thing that came out of class today is sometimes we don't act based on our moral beliefs, based on a situation or where we are. After especially a high pressure situation, we act like that. And then we reflect back on it, man, that's not how I really believe, but that's how I acted.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 things. Illegal means you broke a law. Immoral means my belief system says this. My ethics are my actions. Did my actions back up what I truly believe, or did they go against what I believe?
Yep. Kim, did you hear anything in the training class today around this topic, or that kind of stuck out to you?
Well, I totally agree with Michael. And I think a lot of times we get them a little crossed, and they're very similar, but again, as he said, they're very different. And being able to recognize the difference in them, that our morals, that those are guiding principles. Those are what help that guide us. But the ethics is our actions and our behaviors. And so making sure that we know the difference, I think, is just very important. Michael did a great job in the class really defining those. And I think that the discussion around it was really good as well.
Because some people will always default to, well, it's not illegal. Well, that's not against the law. Right, well, I didn't do anything that broke any laws. And then they'll use that as the defining case for their ethical behavior. Just because. And so you can do something that may not break a law, still doesn't make it the most ethical decision, to do in the workplace. Let's talk about these things that you talked about this morning. about how ethics are a social construct. Now, if you've been in our training classes, we talk about this all the time. But if you're not in our training classes, those of you who are watching on Facebook Live right now, it's this sort of means that, well, it's not unethical here in this situation, but it might be in this situation. It's not unethical in this society, but it might be in this society. So, Michael, what's a little bit about them being because ethics should be black and white, but it doesn't feel like that's the case.
It's not, yeah.
Hey, you got to be a little bit like me. I'm so idealistic that the gray just blows your mind. In social, it depends on the culture. And what's happening here is people is it unethical to go over the speed limit? Well, we know that if I stay under 9 miles an hour over, that I'm going to be okay. So is it acceptable for me to go 79 miles an hour on the interstate and not get caught? Is that okay? So
that's a great example, because you may say being ethical is being a law-abiding citizen. Being ethical, that's how I judge my ethics. Well, would you speed at 75? The speed limit's 70? Well, yeah, but that's not part of. Well, you just said you define your ethics by so that's a great example of how we may believe something but do something else. Yeah, Kim, what do you think about this idea of social?
Well, it was hilarious in class when we talked about, for instance, it's unethical for us to ever think about bribing a police officer. We would never do that.
Right.
But the example Michael gave, about in other countries, it's expected. The police are like waiting for their payout, but that is their culture. So it's all about culture. Here it is, unless you're getting caught, most people are driving driving above the speed limit. But you're not getting caught. And then it's like, I heard someone in class say, well, I'm just driving. This is how I drive. I don't really care about the people next to you. But really, it's almost like peer pressure too, because if you're driving the speed limit and people are like passing, you're like, okay, I don't want to be just, someone almost hitting me or whatever. So you start speeding up, and before you know it, it's just, you're going with the flow of traffic.
Yes.
And going with the flow of traffic is about 80.
Yeah. And like you said, Kim, this ties with just the basic concept of, well, everybody's doing it.
Right.
So everybody's doing it. So everybody's putting their trash in a dumpster behind this building. Right. That's not my dumpster. I'm not paying for it, but I'm doing it because everybody's doing it. Everybody puts their hand into the Olive Garden mint and takes 50 mints with them when they go. So if everybody's doing it, it must not be unethical. Is that a true statement?
Not necessarily. No.
Okay, yeah.
Because, again, just because everybody's doing it doesn't make it right.
Yeah.
And when you're caught, you can't tell the police officer, well, I mean, you singled me out. I mean,
Right.
Everybody's driving, but you're the one that got caught. You're the one that's going to get the ticket because you're wrong, right? We're wrong when we're caught because we're breaking the law. Yeah. So just because everybody is doing it and you feel that pressure from society does not mean that we should do it.
Well, let's tie it back to the workplace then. I'm gonna put you on the spot here because you guys hate these. I know, because I think of things off the top of my head and you're like, we didn't plan this. So, what are some things in the workplace that everybody's doing it, so it must be okay? But if I had to choose on my own, I would say this is probably not an ethical thing to do. What might some of those things? I'll give you an example. One might be time theft. Everybody, even though, I mean, if I've got to fill out timesheets the old way, I'm supposed to be here at 8, I get here at 8:10, but I write 8 o'clock because, now again, assuming that you don't have a clock, to swipe in on, but everybody, when in theory, you would say that's unethical behavior, but at work, everybody does it. So what else? What are some other work things that everybody does that
lunch, how we taking a longer lunch, and everybody takes 10 extra minutes, but the justification is I'm going to stay 10 minutes later, or, I'm going to come in tomorrow 10 minutes earlier. So That's one. The pens is another one. I mean,
hold that thought for a second. If you're on Facebook, give us your thoughts. If you're watching live on Facebook now, what are some things that everybody does in the office that could be considered unethical, but everybody does them, but you're like, it's one of those things. Go ahead, Michael.
I'm right there with Kim. And I don't know that, I'm not going to say that I've seen it at our place of work, but some people will pull into a parking lot, clock in, run back out to the car, then go park the car and come to work.
No, none of us have seen that at all.
But, you've got the lunches, but you also, to stay with the lunches, we justify all the time. I've eaten at my desk every day and I'm working while I'm at my desk. So I deserve, we say deserve to say I get a 2-hour lunch today because I'm going to go out and do a business lunch. But
something else, yes. Something else. How about expense reports? I filled this out, or maybe I didn't fill this out right based on, mileage. Just count it from here, count it from there. What about using company vehicles? I know that comes up. The company vehicle you need to go to work and do. But if you stop at a McDonald's or you take it home for that, is that unethical? Well, everybody does it. It's deemed okay. So again, it's hard.
Not speaking up. It also, I think about not speaking up when you see something that's not right.
That's a good one.
It's like, say anything because nobody else is saying it, so why would I say anything? So it's a lot,
right?
But again, it's just the pressure from our society and our workplace and other people. You just fall into it, but you have to have your own morals and ethics. That's something I always say you've got to bring. We can teach you how to train and do all this other stuff, but there's some things you have to bring, and you've got to bring honesty, all these things to the table.
Yep.
We can work with everything else, but
let me go ahead. Let me throw this up for us, Kim, because you're kind of taking this into that. This can be short, small micro modules of this phrase. I had no choice. Or this can be the big picture life stuff. So, you can hear someone say, well, I had no choice. My kid had a soccer game, so I had to clock out early. Well, I had no choice. I forgot my lunch today, so I had to take someone else's lunch out of the thing. Well, I had no choice. At the end of the day, you do have a choice, right?
Have a choice. You always have a choice to do the right thing.
But we always say this, don't we? I say it.
Yeah.
I use this phrase. I had no choice. I had to use this copier to print out my own personal church flyers because my home copier was broken.
You're on our
How are you going to say church flyers?
I'm sorry. No, I know, Kim. I wasn't saying church. Wow, and look close to home there, didn't I, Kim? No. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
No, that's hilarious. Nothing like real world. I forgot my water from home, so I can find a bottle of water that's here at the personnel board.
Right.
I can find the water that we purchased before.
Right.
That's another example we had. I had no choice, but while I was, I had a choice, but I'm preparing for my training classes, so I just happened to be on Facebook while I was on the clock. I just happened to be on the internet, and I just happened to be on Amazon and look at these other things because I'm on the internet anyway. I do have to do some research, and this feed came up, so I just clicked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's, you're exactly right. Some of our comments here, someone says, use the personal computer to pay bills on payday Friday. Yeah, everybody does that. And again, I'm sure most organizations out there now have an internet policy. And back when the internet first came out, if you all remember, between YouTube and Facebook and all that, everything was blocked and locked down. You couldn't get to anything at most workplaces. And then you found workplaces have realized, well, if I just trust the employees, maybe they'll just do the right thing. So, and again, for us in training, we have to have access to YouTube. Because we have to have access to LinkedIn and Facebook because we find good videos and good comments and good links and all of that. So it's a struggle because, like you said, Michael, everything is open now. So how much does the company say, well, I know our policy says you're not supposed to do it during work hours, But this has also made it tough because even if you block me from that at work, I can still sit in my desk or in my car, right, Kim, and be on it. So at the end of the day, we have choices. So why is it so hard for us to always do the right thing? Let me throw that out there. I'm sorry, not the three of us, everybody else.
Never the three of us.
Aaron says smoke breaks too. Yeah, right. Smoke breaks. Yeah,
he was in our class. So Aaron, thanks for showing up for this part. Yeah, that's important. In class we talked about why is it so difficult? Well, convenience. It is so convenient to go with the flow, go with what everybody else does. And by the way, if you catch me, I'm not nearly as bad as Pete. You should see what Pete does. I can always find somebody that does it worse than I do.
That's a great point. Yeah.
We're always going to justify ourselves, right? We're always going to find, and it's easier for me to say what Michael just said. Well, yeah, if Pete calls me out for making copies, well, Michael,
what Michael does, Pete does.
He's made 100, so it's just human nature. But at the end of the day, again, it goes back to your personal morals and, what are your guiding principles and what guides you? What are your values? That's what you have to do.
Here's something that I want to bring up with y'all, and I'm going to see if I can share my screen here. So work with me here on this as I try and share this thing. So you guys tell me if you see this. There we are. See this article?
Yep. Yes.
All right, so let me take this off. All right, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. Found this article that I found very interesting. It says, why working from home might promote more ethical decisions. And again, more of us are working from home. This is off of Forbes magazine. And it talks about, things that you're doing at home that we might be more ethical at home because we've been given the work-life balance. We've been given the flexibility. There's less stuff challenging us. You might think it's the opposite, that, if you're working from home, you're going to steal time from the company to do laundry and do this and all that. But what they found here was this thing around energy. So let me go ahead and read this to you and kind of take your thoughts on this. It says, we tend to assume that bad people do bad things and good people do good things, and that we ourselves are good people who don't cross the lines. But we're always navigating ethical dilemmas at work. And research has revealed that our ethical behavior fluctuates during the day. Research tells us that behaving ethically requires energy, self-control, and effort. So as we all know, our energy levels ebb and flow throughout the day. And when our energy is low, we may be more unethical. So people who are morning people may be more ethical in the afternoon, and people who are afternoon people may be more unethical in the morning. What do you think? I mean, possible? Maybe? Yes, no?
I don't know.
That feels like a no to me.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with it because I try to make sure I'm practicing ethical behavior all day. And I'm a morning person, so I just can't see myself in the morning. I'm going to do, I'm going to make all the right decisions at 6 o'clock in the morning. But at 2 o'clock, it's like, I'm just going to lie or cheat to get my way out.
Because you're more tired. It's because you're more tired. You're burnt out. It's 4 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock. At 9 o'clock, if you go through the Jack's drive-through, and they overcharge or they undercharge you for a drink, you might say, oh, by the way, you didn't charge me for my drink. But at night, you've worked all day, you go through the drive-through, you look at your receipt, they didn't charge you, give you the drink, you're like, I'm too exhausted to even deal with that. Maybe? I'm just telling you what, you're thinking either way, you're going to bring it up.
Well, you can only think about your own personal experience, but I go to Publix and as soon as I get off work, you got to go to the grocery store, for instance. Yeah. And, if there has been times when I was not charged the correct amount, I said something. So it's just, again,
part of
you just got to be an honest person. You just got to be
Let's go.
honest.
Michael?
Yeah, I can see both sides. I can see several things. From an energy standpoint, because Kim and I both are morning people. We're sitting in Slack at 5, we're racing to see who's going to get it at 4:58 or at 5 o'clock in the morning, who's going to say good morning first? I'm not going to say this is me, but at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going, okay, what's happening?
Right.
Is it ethical for me to crash at 2 o'clock? Because if I really started work at 5, I can be off at 2. But that's not who I am. But there's still that question. That question is, I could be done now, and I could just quit and move on. Do I or do I not? It's a question that some days that I ask myself.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's just something that I kind of wanted to just throw out there and see what y'all thought. All right, I found this other article. This will be our last one that we'll kind of talk about, but let me see if I can share this one, and we'll kind of go over these together as well. All right, this comes out of Michigan State University, and and again, it was a couple years ago, so it's pre-pandemic, but it gives us a good starting point to kind of talk about. We're going to talk about leadership, culture, conflicting goals, and technology. We've already touched a little bit on technology. They say, according to Michigan, here's some of the ethical issues. And again, this is a couple years old, but 30% of employees in the U.S. personally observed misconduct over the past 12 months. Seems like a lot. 30% of workplaces have witnessed misconduct. But they say one way is unethical leadership. So if you've got a supervisor, if you've got a boss, if you've got a manager, and they can do things like perhaps bully you, or maybe you see them inappropriately accepting gifts, or maybe they ask you to skip a procedure just once. Like, what if I, as your supervisor, came to you all and said, hey, just go ahead and fill the mileage form out this way. It'll make it a lot. That way I don't have to fill the form out. Hey, go ahead and just do this. I don't want to have to take time to approve it. And it's unethical. It comes from the leader, from top down. So that's a struggle. What do you think about that? Or what should leaders do around, being unethical?
Well, I'm hard on leaders because I think that a leader has so much responsibility to do the right thing, period. When nobody's looking, when everybody's looking, you have to make the right choice. And the right choice isn't what you were raised to do. The right choice is the right choice.
Yeah.
So you have to make the right choice, and that's so important when it comes to ethics. What is the right choice for this situation and for the best choice for my people?
Right. Because employees are also looking at us as leaders all the time too. I mean, we're supposed to be the role models.
That's what I was about to say. Yeah. We need to be examples. I think as a leader, you need to be the example. You set the standard. You make sure that if you want an ethical culture, your whole office, you just want an ethical culture, then you need to be ethical. And you need to be the example. So they shouldn't see you lying and doing these things. You should never ask your employees to lie for you and all of that, because you're not being an example. And then your credibility and what we think of you is down the drain.
I mean, I'm not sure if you knew we were going into this or not, but you nailed it. When someone takes a bribe, when they manipulate the sales figures, think about people who work in manufacturing. Maybe we're making some shortcuts on this. Even if you work in fast food, we're supposed to give you this many fries. Hey, short the fries because we haven't been getting as much money. Don't fill it up as full as don't fill the drink cups up all the time, So, or there's favors going on. And so it can be a really bad culture. But this is something that applies to us in HR, because I know we train this a lot. In this article, they talk about hiring for a cultural fit. Yes, in government, we hire for skill because you passed the test, but we also want to see if you'll fit into the culture as well. This article says there's a danger in that, because what if the culture is already toxic? That means you just want other people who are unethical. You want other people who put up smoke screens and kind of stuff like that. So how dangerous can the culture be in making us be unethical?
I mean, it's huge. I actually had a friend yesterday call me, and she says, I just got fired. And I was like, what? Yeah, I just got fired. And I'm like, well, what was the reasoning? And she said, they said, I did not fit into the culture. And I'm like, give me some examples. What were you doing? Well, in meetings, I'm very, loud, and I'm very, now you're new. So I was like, well, maybe you shouldn't be as loud because you're new, but if it was something they were doing that was kind of sketchy, and so she said something, she spoke up, and it's like, no, we shouldn't be doing this. And so, yeah, she got terminated yesterday because she didn't fit the culture. That's huge.
Yeah, that can be a problem because, again, and these are, Michael, I know you asked some of your people today, what makes an unethical organization? What makes a business unethical? Can you remember anything? I know it's about 3 hours ago. Anything you remember what people said about being what makes a company unethical?
Yeah, I actually wrote them down. This is good for me. Woo.
Let's go.
Oh, Michael, you're on it.
You know, some of the things that were brought up in class today as far as being an unethical company is favoritism. And let me say this before we go any further. Unethical behavior is a pattern. Okay, so showing favoritism once doesn't make you unethical. But if there's a pattern that shows up, then you're unethical. But favoritism, when pay is due but you don't pay, that's unethical. When you do something for personal gain, when you step on people so you can win rather than the team winning, lack of communication, when you don't communicate the right stuff, that can be unethical, especially if you know that communication is vital to them being successful.
Right.
And then unfair treatment. You know, those were the top 5 that came out of the class. Unfair treatment across the board. It can be huge. It's just huge.
Mm-hmm.
What was the last one again?
Unfair treatment.
Unfair treatment. Yeah. And again, I sat in a little bit on it today, and it was very interesting how certain people were, passionate about certain things and not passionate about other things. And it's just, and in fact, when you were talking about it, it made me think of that scene from the movie Elf. Do you remember where I think James Caan was a book writer and 2 of the books didn't have any of the print in them? And so he said, ship the book anyways. He's like, no one's going to care if there's no print. And of course, his publisher found out that he approved it because that was unethical. I mean, it would have cost a lot of money to fix it, but let's just get it out there. So that can be a struggle as well. And then we've got conflicting goals on here. So that's the last one, y'all. This is where the goals of the company don't match up with the goals of the person, or the goals of, red flags go up because, you've got to get stuff done and you're going to do it by cutting corners. And that's unethical, correct? I mean,
very,
at the end of the day.
Very. At the end of the day, it's very unethical.
So this has been a really good talk. Just what are some closing thoughts, y'all, when it comes to, give our viewers today just some reminders from yourself, from your own point of view, to be, and again, the topic is be an ethical leader. What are some things we can do to be an ethical leader? Kim, you want to go?
Sure. I think, first of all, it starts with you and what you bring to the table. And I think, what is your inner? You have to be moral and ethical coming into the job. And when you come into it with those morals and those ethics, then those are what help you to be that ethical leader and make those right decisions and treat people fair. And even if it means that, you're going to suffer or you're going to hurt, you're still going to tell the truth. Michael asked a question today in class. How many of you would lie to save your job? And a lot of people said yes. And, I'm thinking to myself, I would just lose that job. I'm not going to lie or go against my own personal morals to, save my job. Or, I think a leader, you need to be committed to, first of all, your morals and your ethics. Then you're able to lead the others by example. But and everybody needs, we see the judges. Now, these are judges that make decisions and you're putting people in jail, you're letting them out, all this stuff, but yet and still you're unethical. Your core is unethical. Mm-hmm. Your core is immoral. So,
and the decisions we make, the unethical decisions we make, could have effects on other people's lives and livelihoods.
It does.
kind of all
Think about
that.
how it impacts others around you when you're doing these things. Somebody may be sitting in jail because it just ticks me off. But anyway, be
Okay,
ethical.
good.
Do the right thing.
Michael, what can they do moving forward? What can all of us do?
This is, I have said this since I've been here and even before I got here. Ethics and leadership is an inside job. Your character and your integrity speaks for everything that you have. And once your character and your integrity is broken, it's time for you to move. You've got to move. And the easiest way to lose your character and integrity is to do something unethical. When your ethics are broken, then you've lost character and integrity with your team. You've lost it with your company. So, it's an inside job. Stay true to yourself. Make sure you know what your top 5 values are, and think about that. The last thing I want to tell you as a leader, as an ethical leader, is think first. Just think. Pause and think before you take any action, because it does affect other people around you.
Let's see. Persephone writes, treat people fairly and be ethical. Be a person of integrity. I'm totally buying into that. Aaron says, be honest, have good morals, do the right thing. It's hard to be mad at somebody who's doing the right thing. You can sleep easy even if you lose your job. We didn't spend any time today going over the Heinz Dilemma, but if you've never looked this up or thought about it, it's Heinz, the Heinz Dilemma, and it's an old psychological study. It goes something like this. My wife is dying of cancer. A pharmacist has the drug. Yeah. He's going to sell me the drug for $1 million. Well, I don't have $1 million. And so I go and ask people, I can't get $1 million. And he says, well, I'm sorry. But the drug only cost 100. I've got 100. Yeah, I know you've got 100, but I'm charging you 1,000. So I think he's being unethical. So what do? I break in, or do I break in and steal the drug to save my wife's life? Now, that's the wrong thing to do. That's unethical to go in and steal. But these are the kind of things, the sort of dilemmas you got to think about on a regular basis, because we can all stand back and say, I wouldn't steal. I wouldn't speed. I'm going to obey the law. And when like Michael said, when certain moments come up, you really have to start thinking. We talked about justifying exceptions and saying, well, yes, I did that, but I didn't do what they did. So, it's just being an ethical person is not as simple as flipping a switch and going, I'm always ethical. You got your morals, you got your values, you've got societal norms, you got all these things. And we've got to weave this. I mean, we're kind of being tested every day, aren't we? We're being tested every day. So I like what you all said. Great way to get out of here. I want to thank everybody for watching live. For those of you watching the recorded version, I hope this helped you be a little more ethical. Kim and Michael, thank you all. This was a fun talk today.
Very fun.
So we appreciate you. Go out there and let's get ethical. Ethical. Come on, Kim. I want to get ethical. Let's get
into ethical. Let me hear your ethical.
We're done.